Smile and look at the lenses. All right. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mellissa Thomas for Florida National News, and I am here with Kathleen Michelle.
Yes, reporting.
In a couple of the other episodes, we will pull folks that are residents here that are, kind of walking and get their opinions. This go round, wanted to bring Kathleen on and get her opinion. And, we're keeping the kind of COVID-19 vaccination conversation going. And I just wanted to get Kathleen, it was reported that they went ahead and made the request for the FDA to go ahead and approve their version of the vaccine for children ages 5 and 11. So I wanted to get Kathleen's perspective as a mom and just kind of like, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's something that
It's a very controversial subject, so don't hate me on my opinion, because it's probably not going to be the opinion of the wide range audience here. But as for me, when it comes to children, as far as their growth and whatnot, I don't feel personally safe with my kids getting that vaccination right now until further studies are done. However, I used to be very big advocate of, all types of vaccinations. But one of the reasons I have this, I became a little bit more, I want to know what's in it. I want to make sure it's safe and kind of see how it progresses as, they bring it out into the public.
Got you. That makes sense. Now, are you a person that is kind of uniformly like all the way they can go ahead and do?
Yes, I definitely feel that I'm one of those people who is very open to learning, exploring what's the pros, what's the cons of all of it. I'm not anti-vax, but I'm not pro. I'm kind of in the middle, just still learning. It was very scary. So as a mom, I was very much thinking anybody who didn't vaccinate was neglecting their children. In fact, I said that to one of my friends who was an anti-vaxxer. I said, you're neglecting your kids if you don't get them vaccinated. I was very much like, you better get them on time. But things change when you have where you almost died. It really scared me. So I'm very careful. I like to investigate, research, know what it is. And I have a lot of friends who we just learn to agree to disagree, because I have friends who are for the vaccination for their kids and some who are not, and some who are for themselves, some who are not. Still have freedom of choice, freedom of speech. And that's what our nation is built on, is freedoms. But I do feel like our freedoms are slowly being taken away by having this imposed on a lot of people, adults and whatnot, and then maybe soon children, who knows.
With you guys, like for my part, I see that, like I see and understand that stance. And I think there is a lot of validity to it, because I'm somebody that's like, big on even like privacy and like data protection and this whole thing. But from the health standpoint, I do have a hesitation in terms of, what the science is saying, that in terms of variants only become, like new variants are born when the virus is transmitted to another person. So I guess the big answer, like, I don't have an answer. I personally am vaccinated, and I was hesitant to get vaccinated initially, but I did what, like, the CDC does tell you, like, if you have a personal health provider, like, make sure you talk with getting vaccinated. I was like, I don't want to take this thing and end up with side effects that could hinder my breathing or whatever.
Right.
And we know the virus itself does that. We know it attacks breathing, but I wanted to be sure first, so I made sure to ask my provider, and she said, especially since you have, I can understand the folks that choose, like, I'm not somebody that attacks the folks that choose not to get vaccinated, because I understand certain hesitations, like yours is valid. Like, you have a child, your son had a reaction to a vaccination, so that makes sense. I guess the purpose of being against it, like that, I don't understand. And I mean, guys, this isn't just a conversation between Kathleen and me. By all means, chime in the comments below. Let us know what your thoughts are. Even if you're, one of those folks that I'm talking about, if you're simply using your First Amendment rights to oppose me, like, what is your why behind it? What is fueling you? And then if you're someone that's like Kathleen, who is a parent and had, a child get vaccinated and had a reaction, feel free to share those stories below in the comments as well. We love to have that conversation.
Very afraid right now,
Mm-hmm.
very sensitive. Some people are extreme one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
and it has caused a lot of issues, within the workplace and within our society as a whole. And I believe that we cannot judge. That's your educated decision.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who educationally do not get it for their purposes too.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe they have a weakened immune system. I know someone who gets seizures and they can't get the vaccination because there could be something that could trigger something. At least that's what they look at people and get mad at them and say, why aren't you doing it? You're holding up our country, and I've seen that where people get really angry. You shouldn't even let them go to hospitals. They're not vaccinated, but they don't know the story behind why they're not. They don't understand that, or vice versa, to choose. And that's what's important in this matter, I believe. And that I'm aware of in our country, we've never had this situation where people are being forced to make that choice or lose their jobs, which is it's either do this or you're done. And then eventually I've seen in other states where they were saying they need to have their vaccination card in order to even get food, and that's a little scary because there may be people, like I said, who can't get it. To me, but what about them?
Yeah.
So,
and that I can understand that point as well. And I mean, guys, talk about that side of it too. Like, leave your comments in terms of work mandates or school mandates. I mean, Orange County has decided to have a mandate where, like, the kids have to be vaccinated, but they can choose to opt out with a letter from the doctor. We, like, last week or earlier this week, I believe. But, let us know your thoughts. If you're someone who is a parent and maybe you're having to keep your child out of school because your child could not be vaccinated, or you're choosing not to vaccinate your child, or if you're someone in that situation where and actually I wanted to actually run that by you too, because on the one side, some folks want the mandate to be across the board for all employers, whereas Governor DeSantis said, no, we're going to leave it to the businesses, like private business. What are your thoughts on that for the employee? Like, there's still some freedoms involved there, but then the employee still doesn't quite, I guess,
to make that choice too.
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like anything that somebody is forcing on someone to do against their will. And so I still don't agree necessarily with that stance. And I know people aren't going to like me saying that, but, who is to determine what I put in my body? My boss, so I better find a different job. I mean, not just because of it. Like you said, they may do it just because of the principle and say, no, I'm not doing it. But maybe there really is a religious or a health concern that they're not doing it, and then they could lose their job. And so there's still that authority over that person, and I just don't necessarily agree with it personally, because I think that people who have had the virus, and I haven't seen a lot of reports on how effective, it is in your body as far as not getting it again. I know they say you can get it again, and the governor also released Regeneron for those who getting the virus right after. So I'd like to know from you if there's anyone who maybe got the virus after the vaccination, or maybe had a reaction to it, or maybe nothing happened. Some people have small reactions.
All right. And on that note, guys, we will wrap it up. Again, we leave the comment section open for you. Jump down there. Let us know what your thoughts are. Share your stories with us. We would love to hear from you.
Yes. And keep it G-rated. Let's not get mad at each other.
Let's keep it respectful.
Yeah, let's talk. Let's reason with each other.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for tuning in. This has been this week's edition of Lakeside Conversations, or I should say today's edition of Lakeside Conversations. Thank you.